Okay, so mission 2 in training. Again, hopefully you're not watching this as a tutorial because this is a tutorial for me. So this is me learning how to do things I don't know how to do yet. So prepare yourself for incompetence and bumbling and all that kind of good stuff. This is mission 2 that Leatherneck had provided us in the Viggen module taxi and ground operations tutorial. Hopefully there's all kinds of good stuff. I'm really interested in learning how that works, because that looks to be pretty cool.
Good morning and welcome to your second lesson in the AJS 37 Viggen conversion course. As in your previous lesson, please do not press any buttons or switches unless instructed to do so. If you have a throttle on your joystick or HOTAS, the aircraft is already started as in the previous lesson, so we will now follow the car in front of us. This lesson focuses on how to taxi, general ground handling, and use of the thrust reverser in the AJS 37 Viggen.
Sweet!
The throttle has two idle modes, ground idle and in-flight idle. The throttle is currently in the ground idle position. If you would move the throttle forward just slightly, you will hear a slight click, followed by an increase in engine RPM, engine pressure ratio, and exhaust gas temperature. Advancing the throttle further will press it beyond the in-flight idle detent into the normal throttle range. You will hear another click entering or leaving one of the idle detents. Slowly advance the throttle to start moving forward. Use the rudder to turn in behind the car in front of you. Follow the car.
Let's drag race. Hey, this reminds me of that Saab commercial from the 80s. Keep going. Maybe I'll take off behind him. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember that, so... What? You know, everybody likes to talk about what planes they would like to see in DCS. I'm going to give you my top 3. After we make our next turn, anyway. Speaking of 80s stuff, we'll get to it. I assume we're turning left here? Oh, we're turning right. Fancy. Did I ask for takeoff? No, we didn't. It does feel a little weird on the ground. There have been some comments about that, so that may be adjusted in the next patch.
Now we will practice reversing. The thrust reverser is activated by pulling the reverser handle. The reverser flaps will close and the thrust will be directed forwards. Be careful with the amount of thrust used. Gently advance the throttle to start rolling backwards and then reduce the throttle down to idle. Do not press the brakes while rolling backwards, as it is very likely you will cause a tail strike.
Excellent.
Turn off the thrust reverser by pushing the thrust reverser handle inwards. The thrust reverser flaps will open and the engine will operate
This is
as
so
normal.
cool. Oh, I'm going backwards. Just like steering a car backwards, except that you can't really... I guess we can look over our shoulder to some extent.
Return to your position behind the car.
I I love the sound. Like, you put in the reverser and you can hear the thrust going forward over the fuselage. They really nailed the kind of audio landscape on this module from my impressions. Little clicks and bumps and the little thunk 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 that you hear when you hit these little knobs over here. Awesome. Anyway, my
Follow the
top 3
hull back to
modules.
the ramp. You can use the thrust reverser to slow down the aircraft without using the brakes.
That's a cool idea. Might do that. Number 1 module I'd like to see the most. You know what? It's a tie for number 1, so let's just go with that.
Enfield 1-1. Copy. Clear to taxi to runway 9.
The one that I think that most people would like to see, that most people would agree with me, is the F-20 Tiger Shark. It's the best plane that nobody ever bought, and has Chuck Yeager's glowing endorsement, which is all anyone should ever need. If you think about this, in DCS that'd be like the coolest plane you could fly. If you look at the cockpit of it, it's very similar to the F-5, but with some MFDs. So if you know the F-5, you can probably convert to the F-20 pretty easily. But now you've got a power to weight ratio greater than 1, so you can hang in the dogfight with the F-15s. You've got BVR capability with 4 Sparrow missiles. You've got Maverick capability, so you're like a small, fast, micro A-10. It's got an awesome, simple-to-use radar, the APG-67, which I think they're using in the Chungkwa, the T-50 from Korea. It's got the same engine we have in the F-18, so you wouldn't have to worry about developing a whole new engine, considering there's an F-18 on the way. The F-404 from GE. And just, it looks like super simple, super effective, and with a lot of really cool capabilities that would make it exceptional. And to me, it seems like a real shame that nobody ever bought the F-20. And that's a whole, soap opera on its own. But just a badass little fighter, good dogfighter, just top-notch stuff, easy to learn, and we've already got a lot of the components we need for that module in DCS as it exists. And to me, it'd be super cool to be able to, since nobody actually flew it. To me, DCS is all about it's a sandbox with a bunch of what ifs, like, well, what if, we had this, and what if this happened, and it gives us the ability to, let me use the Viggen's thrust reverser. Oh, tail strike. Now I know what they're talking about. What if the F-20 got deployed? What if somebody bought it, And it would be a way to kind of bring back an aircraft that never really got to do what it was supposed to. Way to experience it. That, unfortunately, the only surviving F-20 is dangling in a museum in California. So getting data for it would be pretty hard, but I think as a module it would be top-notch. I'll get to number 2 here in a moment. Yeah, so that's the F-20. I've always had a soft spot for it. In fact, on my wall right in front of me is an autographed picture of an F-20 signed by Chuck Yeager. I'm super happy about it.
This concludes this lesson. The next lesson will cover takeoff procedures.
Okay, so I guess that's the end of the mission. The other aircraft that was tied for number 1 is going to be the OV-10 Bronco. And that sounds, it's not a combat monster, but think that is one of the most versatile aircraft I've ever read about. Designed as a forward air controller, kind of forward observation recon, which sounds fun as hell on its own, but imagine that with smoke rockets, a targeting pod, some sidewinders, the machine guns it carries, aircraft carrier capable, no, I'm not kidding, can be an ambulance, can drop PJs, parajumpers, can do search and rescue, ambulance, just a cool aircraft that does a little bit of everything. And I think that would be a excellent DCS module because of the huge amount of missions it could fly. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. How do you open the canopy in this thing? This? Anyway, it doesn't matter. See you in the next mission. We'll be taking this thing off.